We think it's very apropos. We've asked Hope to speak today to give a millennial perspective. I'm sure you'll find that this perspective is a little different than your perspective. In fact, in the way that she wants to approach her speech today is extremely, what you might think is innovative, but is just common sense for her. So I'm just asking each and every one of you to just take your hand and place it towards Hope. Have you ever remembered a time when you had to speak publicly for the first time in front of people that you love and know, and some you don't? So just give her some positive energy and just say, God bless you, Hope.
God bless you, Hope.
You can do no wrong. Let's give her a hand clap. Praise the Lord.
Well, good morning. That was, quite the intro. I wish I could start every public speaking like that. Wow. Well, you probably saw me looking at my phone. It's an interesting thing, right? So many people see them as causes of division, particularly among different generations. And while yes, everything has its downsides, what if we instead focus on its ability to bring people together? In fact, I'd like all of you, if you have one, please pull out your cell phone now. Pull it out. I'll give you a moment, because we're going to be using it. We're actually going to be using it. So, technology being what it will, this was supposed to be projected, but technology fails, but we continue. So, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of, there's a system called Poll Everywhere. It's this nifty system that you can text into, and I will get your results. So, if you have your phone out, I'd like you to pull up your texting, and you're going to be texting to for the number part, it's 22333. So 22333, that's the number. And then in the text box, to enter this system, you'll be texting FPA 990. FPA 990. Once you text that in, you should get a response saying that you've entered the system.
Try it again, Hope. What is the telephone number we're texting?
The telephone number that we're texting is 22333. 22333 is the number. You're in? Awesome, we got an in. You're in? You're in? We got some ins? Awesome, that's what I like to hear. So yes, the number, one last time, is 22333, and you're texting in FPA 990. F like first Palo Alto. Exactly. FPA, as in first Palo Alto, the initials for that, 990. So, okay, we'll go with those of you who've been able to get in. My question, when I say millennial, what words come to mind? What words come to mind when I say millennial? Just text a word. You can text two if you want. If you have a lot to say, maybe just keep it to two still.
Okay.
Great. So the idea is I'm seeing your responses as they come in, and I'll be sharing them in about 30 seconds. So take your time, but tell me what you think of when you think of millennial. What words? Okay. So what I get, we can pause, and now I'll tell you the things that I get. I see young, I see immature, I see irresponsible, I see independent, and I see a lot of other things. Some, may not need to be shared, but they could be centered around narcissistic, irresponsible, things like that. And I'll tell you, you're not the first one that I've heard that from. Trust me. We millennials have a pretty bad rep out there. And, well, I have to say I can see where some of it's coming from. There's a flip side to that. Now, I'm going to read you a quick little quote that says, "Lazy, entitled, selfish, shallow, unambitious shoegazers who have trouble making decisions. They would rather hike in the Himalayas than climb a corporate ladder. They crave entertainment, but their attention span is as short as one zap of a TV dial. They postpone marriage because they dread divorce. They sneer at Range Rovers and Rolexes. What they hold dear are family life, local activism, national parks, penny loafers, and mountain bikes." Well, I don't know if you know, this was written in Time magazine in 1990. It was not yesterday, it was not even 5 years ago. This was 1990. It was describing Gen X, the people who are now 35 to 50 years old, as working adults and parents. In fact, this phenomenon of generations having trouble understanding one another is not a phenomenon at all. Life magazine wrote an article way back in May of 1968 entitled "The Generation Gap." It's a good, albeit more lengthy article depicting the experience of an uncle and nephew who spent a summer living together in Manhattan. Their purpose? To experience each other's worlds and attempt to understand what's been driving them apart. The uncle laments whether his nephew and friends would understand when he said that he went into advertising to make a living, not to make a lot of money, and how he had to play the game of beating your father at building a better world for your son. Now, this isn't new either. I distinctly remember in high school talking to one of my very best friends about this very predicament, the idea that we move forward to make a better life for those to come. But growing up here in an incredibly successful area and so innovative, I don't know how I can do that. For me, it was never an instance of trying to surpass my parents, it was simply trying to measure up. That's very different. We live in a time where it's increasingly more common for people to come back and live at home because they cannot afford to live in this area. But it's not just happening here. It's happening in other parts of the country as well. And we need to realize that so that we can come together to realize that these things, these ideas that drive us in what we do are changing. Now, to go back to the story, that nephew was of the baby boomer generation. Those are the same people today who are lamenting how millennials act. Irony. Now, what I've led you through is the same thing a man named Ira S. Wolf did in 2016 when he asked a group of managers to describe young people they interview and work with. The adjectives that they say are the same ones I hear: the narcissistic, entitled, job-hopping, irresponsible, selfish, unreliable. I could go on, I won't. Ira Wolf states in his article, "The inconvenient truth is that our society and workplaces will never return to the way it used to be. Technology, automation, and globalization have no innate bias. Whether you belong to the oldest generation or the youngest, adaptation is necessary. Change happens, one way or another." Now, if you're a millennial sitting here in church or watching online, because we have a great live streaming, it's one of those ways we can connect with them, I also want you to think, when I say the word church, what comes to mind? If you're a millennial, if you're not, when I say the word church, what comes to mind? Just like I asked you before, I won't ask you to text this one in because you won't be able to see it. But when I say the word church, what thoughts come to mind? You know what I hear? And you know what I read in the studies? Millennials see church as judgmental, rigid, elitist, sometimes sexist, possibly racist at times, anti-LGBTQ, and complicit in our climate crisis. That's incredible to me, because that's not at all how I've experienced church. But I have to respect what the studies say. In fact, there's a PRRI study. This is a Public Religion Research Institute that says 2/3 66% of unaffiliated Americans, these are people who do not go to church, agree that religion causes more problems in society than it solves. 66% of people who are out there, not in church of any type, no religious affiliation, believe that church and religion does more harm than good. That blew my mind. In fact, young adults, the millennials, ages 18 to 29, a little bit above, who left their childhood religion are about 3 times more likely than seniors, age 65 and older, to say negative religious teachings about and treatment of the gay and lesbian community was a primary reason for leaving their childhood faith. They are 3 times as likely, people my age, 3 times as likely to leave essentially because of the social causes they believe the church is against and working against, these things that do not identify with their beliefs. Now, I've always been the most religious out of my friend group who is not from church. You know, of course, I have a lot of great friends from church, and I'm eternally grateful for that. But growing up, my friends from school, my friends from my different sports teams, I was always the most religious of the bunch. This meant, you know, Saturday sleepovers, I was the first one to leave in the morning because I had church to go to. You know, I would come to church sometimes in my soccer uniform, if you remember, and I'd dip out the back as when I had to go and race off, but it was always a priority for me to be here, no matter what else I had going on. But now, and a little bit back then, I generally feel a need to justify being Christian. I say, I'm Christian, but I'm not that long list of negative stereotypes that most people think about when they think about Christianity. Now, I wish this weren't so. Having to explain that I'm not that host of negative adjectives to so many of my peers that they see in the church makes me incredibly sad, because I think the church has the answer for so many of people's ailments today, particularly millennials. We are lonely. It's been shown time and again. There have been articles written, there have been studies done. We still want those deep relationships and to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Specifically, a Pew Research study is about feeling spiritual peace and well-being. This was done in 2014, and they surveyed ages 18 to 65 plus. Now, in the millennial age group, the 18 to 29, only 50% of people said that they feel spiritual peace and well-being at least once a week. You know what that says to me? 50% could not agree with feeling a sense of peace and well-being at least once a week. That means not once a week do they feel peace and well-being. No matter how we got here, or if the younger generation always feels the more unrest and the more unease, 1 out of 2 people not feeling peace at all during a week is way too high for me. Is it too high for you? So, then one of the other questions that the Pew Research study asked was about feeling wonder about the universe. So, ironically, this juxtaposes the other one. The 18 to 29 group came out ahead at 68%, combining at least once a week or once or twice a month, feeling wonder about the universe. This was higher than any other generation. This shows I'm not alone in having so many existential questions. If anything, it makes me feel a little bit better. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What's next in this life and after? While millennials lead the way in this, we also have the lowest importance of religion in one's life. The last survey that I'm referencing also surveyed these same age groups about importance of religion in one's life. 18 to 29-year-olds came in at just 40%. The rest of them were as high as 51, 59, 65. So, what does this all tell us? To me, it's a communication error. What is currently being put out there is not understood by millennials, and I fear the same will be said for future generations. The good news? We can do something about this. I know how much this church has taught me, and I desperately want it to be here for the next generation. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm speaking. It has taught me healthy relationships, patience, love, and compassion, the act of asking questions when I have one, because they're welcome here. Not only that, it's taught me how to take actions about the causes that we all care about. Heck, we have an entire social action team committed to doing just that. And let me tell you, that social action team, they don't just sat around. They get things done. We also have the fantastic Seeds program run out of our church, which works to end youth homelessness, a group disproportionately represented by LGBTQ youth who are no longer welcome at home. I want them to know that they have a space here. They are welcome here. We affirm them, and we are out there fighting for them. That God loves them as God loves all of his children. That's the church that I know. I want those fearing for the future of our planet, as I do, to come be in community with the most supportive group I've ever known. The Bible tells us that we have a responsibility to one another and to this earth. Climate science and religion are not opponents. We can work together to create a better future for our earth and for each other. I have personally benefited from the generosity and support of this community. They have been there at times when no one else has. Through the darkest hours, they're the ones who continually show up for me. They are a testament of God's love and legacy of Jesus' actions. Jesus was radical. You know that? He associated with people on the margins, the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the lepers. They all sat at God's table and they all sat with Jesus because he believed that those on the fringes could be brought in through God's love. As disciples of Jesus, we can and should do the same. We can and should push into the uncomfortable and the unknown. So, serendipitously, the new Reverend Ann Duncan gave me this article that her father had sent to her. I know it was weird. I sat at a coffee shop and I actually read a real paper. It was very strange for me too. I didn't know I was like, how does this work? What are newspapers? But ironically enough, I found some great information that really backed up those feelings that I have. And it talks about just how we can lean into the unknown. It states, questioning religious teachings and positions has always been an essential part of religion. No faith is fixed or changeless. Religion's ongoing vitality depends on those who question and challenge inherited teachings and positions. Without such engagement, any religious tradition will die from the inside long before it begins to lose adherents. Those who are unaffiliated when they are given access to religion, not as a set of teachings and positions, but as a space for active engagement with enduring questions, they lean in. Now, this article was written by a professor at a university. And so he found that when we give people the opportunity to he led debates on both sexuality in the Bible and how that can be looked at from two different sides, as well as climate change. And he said that even those people who before could not even think about religion in that context saw the value, at least in discussing and looking for the answer. It's not that they found it right away, but they were suddenly at least had their eyes open to be able to look. Doesn't mean that you see the light right away. If we can properly communicate, the church has the answer to so many people's problems and questions, we will all benefit. The world will benefit. How? How can we do this? We try to speak their language. This can be done in a variety of ways. One of the big ways, as I start off at the beginning, technology. It's here, and I don't see it going away anytime soon, so we have to adapt. You adapt, or you essentially get left behind. These can look like things like my friend the other day told me how she texted in her offering. If you have Venmo, she Venmo'd her offering. Made it really easy for her because she doesn't carry cash on her anymore. There are things that I've heard about with iPad sign-ins. Again, quick and easy. My other really good friend who goes to Embrace over in the East Bay, she did Zoom conferencing for Bible study. They were all lounging in their pajamas in their bed. They were comparing what kind of slippers they had on while they were discussing the Bible. These are things that wouldn't be possible many years ago, but today they are. This means that people who either can't drive, can't go out late, are feeling slightly ill, have someone to take care of, can still engage with one another. That's a blessing. I see this working for all over the country. Say someone has lived here, creates a community, moves to the other side from the West Coast to the East Coast. The internet can connect us all. I'm not saying this is the answer for everything, but the options are limitless, truly. In fact, we even live stream our services, so we're getting there. Now why? Why church? Because the word is more relevant today than ever before. People are looking for a way to overcome the rampant divisiveness in our world and country. When we look to the Bible, God, and Jesus, we can find answers to existential questions, and we can affect change in the world. As the song says, they'll know we are Christians by our love. This is one of my favorite songs, and I feel like it's the best way to truly embody Christ as we go out there. And if we can create that association between church and what we are doing and what we are about out in the world, then more people can also understand why church. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hope. After every service, it is our custom to invite you to be a part of this community that believes that we have the capacity and the mandate to change the world, to turn down that temperature in the world. So if you want a place where your existential questions are welcomed, where we will be having Bible study and you can have them in your PJs. We did in new members class, Joe Whitty, I know that my sister showed up in her PJs one day. But so if you want to be a part of a community that is progressive and really seeks to want to do something about the things that are happening in the world, please see me, see Hope, see any of the members in this church. We'll be glad to tell you more about how to become a member, because this world truly does need you. And we believe that God has brought you to this place, not just to sit in the pew, but for your light to shine and for your passion and your gifts to be used for God's glory and the blessing of this world. Thank you.